Dave is an author and a speaker. And Dave, can you just tell us a little bit about your background?
Right. Well, I used to be a computer programmer in New York. So I was writing software to financial companies in New York, and I happened to be there for 9/11. So I watched the events over in front of me. Didn't really sort of see anything particularly wrong with it until a few years later, and basically I had my midlife crisis at the same time as I realised there was something fishy about 9/11, and I started a kind of quest for the truth, and I've been basically searching for the truth ever since. About 15 years or so I've been doing it, and in that quest I've been finding out some amazing things about a lot of different topics.
And Dave, that's what we're going to talk about today. There's so many things that I want to ask you. But again, can I just get you to, as you just alluded to, you started to awaken, particularly at 9/11. Can you just tell us what happened for you?
Right. Well, as I said, I watched it all. I literally had a ringside seat. I was directly across the river in a place called Hoboken. And so for a good few years I didn't sort of give it a second thought until I was helping my daughter with her physics homework. And the problem was, there was a marble on the tabletop, the tabletop was a metre high. How long did it take the marble to hit the floor? So she couldn't do it, and she was panicking. So we sat down and we worked out the calculation, and we did a few examples, and she said, I've got it down, I've got it. So I said, no, well, I'm going to give you one more problem. Let's say it's a bowling ball, it's on top of the World Trade Center. And so we sat and she did the calculation, and it worked out for about 10 seconds. Mm-hmm. So that sparked a little memory, so I went back and watched the films, and sure enough, the whole building took 10 seconds to come down, which is impossible because it's like a building falling through itself, through the path of most resistance, the rest of the building that was unaffected, falling at the same speed as a bowling ball falling through empty air. So no, that's impossible. So I thought I was the only person in the world who thought that there was something wrong. Until I started going online and started finding lots of other people going, there's something fishy here. That's fine.
Yeah. So, obviously you woke up and you were wide awake and things started to change for you. You started to see the world differently, and you changed your life. You left your job and you started to, you took time out to search for answers, and various things came up. What came up first for you? Where did you start?
Oh, where did I start looking for the truth, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, it started with the actual events of 9/11, what really happened, beyond what we saw. So we started seeing things like, steel beams being melted by jet fuel, which can't happen, and all sorts of things like that. But then I went into finding out that the people in the administration of the American government just so happened to be a group of people who authored a document a year or so before called Rebuilding America's Defenses, and it basically said that all these plans that were written in this document couldn't take place unless there was a catalyzing event like a new Pearl Harbor. And then, like a year later, all of those people who were involved in this document were in power. And all of a sudden they had a new Pearl Harbor. And, since then, everything that's happened has been, was essentially impossible. They couldn't have happened without 9/11. And literally, things like wars in the Middle East and wars everywhere, essentially, were all justified and all by 9/11, as well as all the other things that we personally had to bear, like all this police state that's been built up around us, and all the so-called security measures, like having to slip off before going onto a plane, or being irradiated before going onto a plane. So yes, that's where it led me. It led me to finding out who's behind that, which then led me to looking at the system as a whole. So that kind of led me into the monetary system. That's something else that we don't ever look at, and even though it's one of the most important things we should know about in a society, we really don't know very much about money, where it comes from, who supplies it, why, how does it work? So when you start looking into that, you find a huge deception going on there as well. Everywhere I actually looked, literally everything I looked at, once you scratch the surface, you find out that it's not what you think it is, and it's a system that's working against you.
Dave,
does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And I know you stumbled on certain areas where what you call the biggest lie of all. And I would like to kind of start with the information you found about the true Hebrews, the Paleo-Hebrews. You've done so much work on that. And I've been, watching those videos, and they're so thought-provoking, and, it literally takes the roof off your mind, or that closed mind, and makes you think so much more. So can you tell us a little bit about that? How did you discover this information? And just can you explain to the listeners who the true Hebrews are?
Right. Well, I started off. I was an atheist for about 40 years. I made the decision that all religions were control systems when I was about 13. And I never wanted anything to do with Bibles and religions or anything like that, gods and whatever. And it wasn't until essentially the Bible was presented to me 3 times when I was looking at health and found the perfection of the human body. Somebody said, urine therapy is in the Bible, don't you? And I'm like, is it? Well, I had a look, and there it was. And then somebody mentioned that King James was a black man. Or King James who authorized the 1611 Bible. So I checked, and sure enough, there he was. He was a brother. So the third one was finding out about the flat earth. And then somebody said, the Bible is a flat earth book, don't you? So I checked, and sure enough, the passages that describe a flat motionless earth with a dome over it. So when something presents itself 3 times to me, it's usually a sign that I have to give it, a bit more attention. So I started, again, I had no religious background. I had no any formal religious training, nothing whatsoever. So I came to read the Bible fresh. Obviously I'd heard, some of the stories and everything, but, they were just stories. So I read it from, with just an open mind, just to see what the hell was in it. It was in there. So I read it from cover to cover 3 times. And several things presented themselves to me. First of all, the Old Testament was a complete story from beginning to end. And it was a very easy to understand story. When you get past the flowery language and, it's focused on genealogies, it's a very simple story to understand. And the New Testament, again, what was obvious to me there was that it was a fake, forgery, something that was added on afterwards to deceive, essentially. Because, as I said, the Old Testament is a complete story. And if you believe that story, then it's the Most High who is beyond time and space. Not only telling you what happened in the past, but telling you what's happening in the present and the future. So the New Testament should have been in the Old Testament, but it wasn't. There's no mention of anything. Any of the events was the New Testament in the Old. And when you consider that, from a New Testament point of view, the coming of this Christ figure being the Most High incarnate as a human man, that is the most amazing event that could happen in this world. The Creator coming down as a living man. It then seems very puzzling why that event is kind of omitted from the Old Testament. This Old Testament covers from the beginning of Adam to the end of days, and somehow they forget that, by the way, the Creator comes down as a living person. No, it's just not in there. So it's kind of obvious that it was added on later as a way of distracting from the real story that's in the Old Testament. So in the middle of this, as I started to research the Old Testament, I had this experience, very weird experience, with it was a Muslim experience, to be frank, but I saw this strange writing in my vision. Weird characters. I felt like I should know what they mean, but I couldn't quite grasp them. And I couldn't remember them when I came out of the trip. I couldn't remember any of the characters. And it wasn't until 5 or 6 years later, exactly when I started to research the Old Testament, that I found out it was an actual language called Paleo-Hebrew, the original language of mankind and the language that the Old Testament was originally written in. And it was amazing. And this on its own is a topic that demands a lot of scrutiny, because this language is amazing. When you find out how this language works very differently to how English works, and it's just fills you with joy almost when you sort of understand it. One aspect of this language is that it's an absolute concrete language which can't mean anything other than what it means. So there's no interpretation and no metaphor or anything like that. And so it indicates that the Old Testament is to be taken absolutely literally. And then when you sort of look into history, you find that there are actually markers, there's actually evidence of the story, littered in this world. So, for example, Noah's Ark was found. It was found in Turkey, in the foothills of Mount Ararat, exactly where the book says it would be. 70 miles from the nearest body of water, this huge, remnant of this ship, a large ship, exactly the dimensions that are listed in the book, and in a place called the Valley of the Eight, the 8 people that were on the Ark. What else was found? There was the Red Sea crossing was found. So the Red Sea, or a part of the Red Sea called the Gulf of Africa, is a mile deep. everywhere except this one place called Nuweiba al-Muzina in Arabic, which there is a strange land bridge where it literally floats down to about 900,000 feet and then floats back up. But it goes all the way across, and it's only in this one place. And the name Nuweiba al-Muzina means the waters of Moses opening. And somebody took a mini sub down there and found chariot wheels and chariot pads and horse and human skeleton. So it tells you that story of the Israelites going across across the Red Sea on dry land and then being pursued by the Egyptians in their chariots. It actually happened. And again, when you follow the path of the Israelites, you find again some of the landmarks. The split rock at Horeb that's been found. This huge rock with a big split down the middle and water damage sort of below it. So that was a rock where Moses struck it with his staff, split, and water started pouring out of it. So there it was. I could go on for ages about it, but literally, when you look into history, you find that these events actually happened. That lends more credence to the book. So, again, now, when you look at what's going on now, you'll find that the book has already prophesied what's happening now and what will happen in the very near future. So, it's an amazing kind of discovery, especially when you find out that the people the book is talking about, right, is people that would, according to Psalm 83, would have their memories taken from them and be scattered out throughout the entire world and be in servitude and oppression for 400 years. And it turns out that, well, that's us. That's the so-called black people. But that's, again, we're talking in English here, which is a very restricted language. So when I say black people, I don't mean all black people, and I don't mean all people who are dark-skinned. I'm talking about the Hebrew Israelites. Now, the Hebrews, yes, they start off as dark-skinned, but they're not the same as the native Africans. There are some native Africans who were given the northern and eastern parts of Africa, Egypt, Libya, Ethiopia. They are native Africans. They descend from Ham, son of Noah. The Hebrews descend from Sem. And though they kind of look the same as the Hamites, there are differences. So in Africa, you get, again, the native Africans in the northern and the eastern part, and some scattered around the whole continent. But in a place called Sub-Saharan Africa, so all those countries below the Sahara Desert, West, Central and South Africa, are the Hebrews. That's why there's a kind of difference between Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa, because they're two different people, and the Sub-Saharan Africans are considered as strangers by the native Africans. So that's why you find that there's always, in most of the countries in Africa, kind of conflict between two factions. Most of the time it's native Africans against the strangers, the invaders, not invaders, but the foreigners. So yes, it's those people who are the ones who were taken from West Africa and taken to America and West Indies as slaves. But they weren't the only slaves, because, as it turns out, these Hebrews, who called themselves the Iba, now in the Paleo-Hebrew, there were no vowels, so vowels become interchangeable. So the Iba, the Heba, the Evo, the Ibu, IGBO, Ibu, Ibu. They're the same people. It's just the same word, which means Hebrew, which has been sort of, kind of changed over time. But the Iba went across southern Europe and ended up in a place they named after themselves, the Iberian Peninsula. Yeah, that's Spain and Portugal. They went on to found another country. Again, they named after themselves, Hibernia, which means in Paleo-Hebrew, land of the Hebrews, which is Ireland. That's the original name of Ireland. Some went on from Ireland to found another country, and the name that survives there is Hebrides. So they founded Scotland as well. So England or Great Britain used to be a black country. The Welsh, it turns out, were from the Northern Kingdom. They descend from King Omri from the Northern Kingdom, and they became known as the Cymry. And they went across kind of Northern Europe, ended up going into the British Isles, and being pushed to the far west. So the Cymry, in their own language, Cymru, are the Welsh. And they were, again, black Hebrew Israelites. So when King James came along, he was the one who reunited or united all the clans, all the tribes of people, or tribes of Israel, basically, in England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, and France, actually, because the French, the original French Gauls, from Galilee, they were all the tribes of Israel, and they were reunited by King James into a united kingdom. Because in Israel, what we call Israel today, it was divided into two kingdoms, the Northern Kingdom and the Southern Kingdom. So King James reunited the tribes of Israel into a united kingdom in Great Britain, which is why we have the Union Jack. It's called the Unification of Jacob. That's what it is, and that's why the stone of destiny, the stone that Jacob rested his head on when he ended up wrestling with an angel, that's supposedly under the throne of Great Britain. So yes, it was those people as well who got transported when the Edomites ended up taking power in England. They got transported to the West Indies. So if you live in, say, Barbados or Jamaica, a great proportion of the people there were actually the original Irish people. That's why we find a lot of Irish names, including mine. My name is Murphy. I assume that my family got that through slavery. But it turns out when you read a book called "Wait, the Black Irish of Jamaica," you find that there's a guy called Joseph R. Williams who wrote the book. He lived some time in Africa and then went to live in Jamaica, and he was puzzled why the Jamaicans were very different from the Africans that he lived amongst, and that they had all these pure Irish names. So he went to look for those names in the land registry of Jamaica, but he couldn't find any of the names. So those people didn't get the names from slavery. That was, I guess, the traditional way. The slave owner would give the slaves their last name, like But that didn't happen in the West Indies. So Joseph R. Williams went to look at the records from Oliver Cromwell when he attacked Ireland. He courted the Irish, and he found all the names in the records. So the original black Irish people came over with their original names. So yes, you'll find that it wasn't just the West Africans that went into slavery in the Americas, and it was actually the Irish, the Welsh, the Scots, the Britons, rather than, I don't say English, because English is essentially German. But yeah, so the people from the British Isles were taken to the Americas via the West Indies. Also, Europe was mostly black, even up until the 1700s. And there was a huge traffic from Europe to the Americas and the West Indies. So, yeah, the original Germans were black people. And you can find confirmation of that in an essay by Benjamin Franklin from 1751. And he literally describes Europe as being, black people, and how very small the number of white people there were in the world. So yes, it's very eye-opening.
No, I was writing and listening, and it's phenomenal, the information. And how you tie it all to here in England, and you explain that the English language is a backwards version of Hebrew language, Paleo-Hebrew, is that right?
I'm having a little difficulty hearing you, I'm afraid.
Oh, are you? Yeah, is this any better?
Oh, that's a little better, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was saying that I'd seen somewhere where you said that the English language is a backwards version of the Paleo-Hebrew language.
Yeah, well, that's right, because in this original language of mankind, this Paleo-Hebrew, it reads right to left, and it's a pictorial language, so it's a language made up of pictures, and it turns out that's the way we think. Not only do we think right to left, that's our subconscious thing, but we think in pictures, not words, naturally. Yeah. So we have to be taught not only to read left to right, but to think in words rather than pictures. And I do an experiment to show, how the difference is between Paleo-Hebrew and English. So should I do that for you? Or?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to describe the film in English, and you have to guess what the film is. Okay.
Go ahead.
Right.
Go.
So a man on the autistic spectrum recounts his life to strangers. What's the film?
Oh God. Can't think.
Okay, so what was happening in the left-hand side of your brain when I was talking is that you heard the sounds I was making, you searched the words and looked up the meaning of those words, and then you started comparing those meanings with a set of films that you've watched. And you couldn't think of one, but others are thought of Rain Man, Little Mind, Forrest Gump. There's a whole list of films.
As you say it now,
Yeah? Right, so I'm going to describe the same film in Paleo-Hebrew. Now, as I said, it's a language of pictures, so I'm going to use emojis, emoticons, okay? So, man running, a few trees, a box of chocolates, a shrimp, and a boat.
Oh, am I supposed to say? Am I supposed to think of something?
Yes. You're
Oh my
supposed
God.
to try and think of a film. Shall I say?
Yeah, you just said. As you said that, I thought of the same film that you said. Because I must admit, I'm terrible with films. But I can't think Marathon Man, or I can't think of anything at the moment. Okay. I know what you mean. It's more when you do it in a more descriptive way. It's so, when you put the pictures, it's easier to kind of, think of something much more quickly.
Right. Well, most people who've seen the film would jump at Forrest Gump.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I haven't seen the film, but I've heard of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's so what would have happened is when you were visualizing the pictures that I was describing. Yeah. It isn't a case that you were processing. You were processing in the same way. Okay. You were taking the pictures in, and all of a sudden, what happens is Forrest Gump just comes out. It comes from your gut, from your heart. Comes up. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to analyze it. It just comes. Yeah. Now that set of pictures also. First of all, I didn't have to spell it to you. I could have given you those pictures in any order. Okay? And also, those set of pictures can only mean Forrest Gump. They don't apply to Rain Man. They don't apply to Beautiful Mind. It literally can only mean Forrest Gump. Now, that was the language that the Old Testament was written in. So, every word can only mean one thing. It can't be interpreted any other way. Now, when you interpret it into English, that's when the deception can come in.
Because it's more abstract.
Yes, it's abstract, it's symbolic. And what I mean by that is the letters don't mean anything. They're just shapes. The words don't mean anything. They're just sounds. And you have to be taught by rote what those sounds mean. So, moving body of water, river, moving body of water, river. Over and over again you see a moving body of water. You go, oh, that's river. Yeah? But the word river doesn't mean anything. Now, I realised after a while that means English is actually like a computer language. The words are variables. In computer language, excuse me, you define a word to, a letter or a word to mean something else. So you'd say X equals 5. So wherever in a computer program you see the letter X, well, you can say, oh, that's 5, But the thing about a variable is that you can change it. You can change the value. So that you can go along and say, oh, X is 5, and X there, oh, that's 5, and X there, that's 5 as well. But at some point in the program, you can change that value to mean X, to mean 7. So you carry on going, oh, X is 5, oh, X is 5, right? But it's actually 7. You don't know. Yeah? Yeah. So, an example of that in the world is that when you have an interaction with a police or the courts or something, you're talking in English, but you don't realise that they are speaking in another language that sounds exactly like English, but it's not. It's redefined all the words. So when you say the word understand, I think it means comprehend. Yeah, yeah. But Weber defined it to mean to consent to. So when you're talking, you're speaking a completely different language, with the power, the intent of the words you speak actually have a different effect in the world. What you intend. Yeah. So and that describes the English language to a T. The English language is designed as for deception. just like in the Inuit language, there are 50 words for snow because snow is the most important thing for the Inuit to know about. Well, there are 250 words for deception in the English language. So that's why, it's so ambiguous and so, imprecise that, you can say one thing and some other meaning comes out. I think the best examples are in the medical field, when you're talking about illnesses. The word cure has a different meaning. The original meaning of cure is to preserve meat. So when you say you want to cure something, you're actually saying you want to preserve it.
Right.
When you say you're suffering with something, well, the original meaning of suffer is to permit, to allow. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Thou shalt not permit a witch to live. So when you say I'm suffering with cancer, you're saying, well, I'm allowing this cancer. The word doctor, well, what happens when you doctor a document? When you falsify it? What happens when you doctor food? You poison it. So what's a doctor? So the English language is littered with that. It's literally, it's made up of these contradictions that, means that when you try and say something, you're actually, in the world, you're contradicting yourself and putting out the opposite energy to what you intend. And as you said, also, it's backwards. So, an interesting thing about human beings is that, your body doesn't want you to lie.
Yeah.
So when you lie, the rest of your body is screaming, I'm lying, That's what body language is, You try and lie to somebody, your body will betray you and say, no, I'm lying, this is not true. So when you speak in English, and you try and deceive somebody in English, your subconscious is very clever. It chooses the words that you decide to use, and the way you pronounce them, so that when you lie in English, if you play those lies backwards, you'll find that you'll tell the truth backwards. So you take a Trump speech, for instance, or an Obama speech, and you reverse it. What you'll hear is gibberish, and then you'll hear a complete sentence in English that tells you what he's really talking about. Have you heard the words, it's Obama's phrase, which was yes we can. Have you heard it played backwards?
No, I haven't, but I've heard that. It doesn't, it means something completely different, yeah.
Well, when you hear, when you do it, yes we can, you play it backwards, it says, thank you, Satan. Now, I was a bit surprised and confused by that because, yes we can, well there's no U sound in yes we can. So how can it say thank you, Satan? But, when you reply backwards, it says it very clearly. So I was looking into it, I was saying, well, where do you get, the U sound in yes we can? And that's when I discovered the W. I just like those moments when you discover something. The W, right? Well, in English, we concentrate on the part of the sound, yeah?
Yes.
But the French, they don't. They concentrate on the other part. The when they say oui, like as in their yes, yeah? They say oui, yeah? It's spelled O-U-I, yeah? So they can't concentrate on the first part of the sound that we try and miss out. So it's we, yeah? You can't say we without saying first.
Yes.
And that is a long U or a double U.
Yes.
That's why we call it a double U. And I was like, again, I was like, that one of those moments of discovery. I just discovered a W. But that's it. That's where that sounds. So when you play the W backwards, it comes out as U. So yes. Anyway, that was a little aside. But the point is that English is backwards. And there was a guy that again, and then the synchronicity put me in touch with him, is that he was sending me emails about reverse speech, and I kept ignoring them because I thought it was something vaguely satanic. But when I was coming across all this information, I thought, these emails keep coming, so I'm going to actually see what he's talking about. And he'd done a lot of research on reversing people's words and finding out what they're really saying. So yes, English is a backwards language, and you don't know what you're saying when you're using it. You don't know what energy you're putting out into the world, because one of the things that most people don't realise is sound has a really important effect on the world.
Right,
yeah.
Sound
creates form, sound can levitate, sound can destroy. In my talk that I'm still working on about language, I have a video of a car with some powerful loud speakers in it, and the video is basically they're playing this very bassy song, sort of really long bass notes in it. And when they play these bass notes, and the camera goes out and looks at the car, and you can see the glass actually bending. You can see the glass rippling, and it's sort of like it's impossibly rippling. You can see the metal rippling as well with these bass notes. Yeah? So these sounds, these frequencies can literally, deform and bend steel and bend glass. You just have to kind of realise what these frequencies of sound that we listen to are doing to us, because they can actually shape the molecules of the things around us. Yeah, and interestingly, we have this voice box, this very, very, very powerful voice box, which can, literally operate over a wide frequency band, and it's very, very sophisticated, way more sophisticated than making these small mouth noises that we're using for at this moment. So I'm contending that our voices are really there for creation, for purposes of creating things and making things happen in this world. But we just don't know. We don't have this knowledge anymore. Indeed, I think Adam's first job in the world was to name the animals. Well, if you look at the word name, which is Shem in Paleo Hebrew, it doesn't just mean label things. It means to define, to shape, I can't think of the other words I would use, but to define, to characterize, literally to create. So I'm saying that the voice, the sound, is very, very important. One of the other things I found was how dolphins work. Now, I don't know if you've come across this thing called cymatics, which is where you have a black piece of card on top of a loudspeaker, and you put some like fine material, like a flower or something, on top of the black card, and you play a frequency into the loudspeaker. And what happens is the flower will organise itself into a complex shape based on the sound frequency. And as you turn up the frequency, the flower will reorganise itself into more and more complex patterns, and very regular patterns. Yeah. So as frequency increases, then the patterns become very, 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 very much more complicated. Now, a researcher had got a dolphin in a pool, and basically got into the pool with a dolphin, and the dolphin made a sound. So they captured the sound the dolphin made and played it into the cinematoscope, and the pattern that was created was a picture of the diver that was in the pool with the dolphin. So dolphins speak in pictures.
As we do.
And there's a lot to this, and that's the problem I'm having with this. We're doing this talk about the language, because there's so much information, and I'm just got to try and pull it together into a narrative that everyone can understand.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating.
Absolutely, my goodness. I'm sure the listeners are, their mind is wide open with all this information that you've brought to us today, Dave. I definitely got so much from this, and we've got about 7 minutes or so, and I really just want to go quickly with you, but I know you're going to come back and we're going to go into other and then certainly look at the language as you complete that project. But I know a few years ago you were ill, and you found a way to heal yourself. Can you talk about that? Yes.
Yeah, I was nearly 20 stone. Got really basically a piece from living in America with a standard American diet. I had very, very high blood pressure into stroke territory. My lungs were basically shot. I had chronic asthma. And apparently, according to my last fire department medical, I had the lungs of a 70-year-old. I had a Achilles tendon operation, which left me with nerve damage in the side of my foot and pain up the back of my leg. I had problems, shoulder problems. I had a whole list of things wrong with me. So I found that the medical establishment were just making me worse. Everything they suggested just made things worse. I started looking for, alternatives, and they didn't really seem to do very much either. Until I went to a festival, and this lady there was talking about urine therapy. And so me and my friends walked in there with our arms folded, saying, "Tell us about drinking a piss, we lady." And we listened with almost our jaws flopped open. And when we came out of there, we all said, we're going to have to try and do this. So, the next day we all started, and, nearly 8 years on, we're all still doing it. And we've all had our lives transformed because of it. So, once I found that all these problems, literally a year and 4 days, a year and a month after I started, I was literally about 11.5 stone, down from 20. All the problems I had gone. My lungs had regenerated. My blood pressure had normalised. Literally everything that was wrong with me was gone. I was literally bursting with energy, and I just felt great. So I started researching why it is, why did this work? And that's where I ended up writing my book, and basically got the whole thing down to 4 simple steps. And essentially those steps are: stop poisoning yourself, remove the poison that's already in you, give your body the energy it needs, and change the way you think.
Wow.
And between those 4 things, you can heal yourself of anything.
Dave, how can people get hold of your book? How can people get in touch with you?
Okay, well, my book is called The Human Body Owner's Workshop Manual. And you can do a search for it, but you can find it on lulu.com. That's lulu.com. You can also find it on Amazon, but, don't get it on Amazon, they're evil. You can find my website on allegedlydave.com, or you can email me on dave@allegedlydave.com. And I've also got a YouTube channel, which is dmurphy25. That's DMURPHY 25.
Yeah, because you've got so many videos, so many subjects, and you've got people reaching out to you to do interviews with you all over the world, and the videos are fascinating. I could literally listen to you talk all day, Dave. You know your subject so well, and every time I hear you, it sort of opens up a new avenue. Dave, what I'd like you to do in the last 2 minutes that we have, can you just share, you've obviously given us so much, but have you got any words of wisdom that you just, if anyone's listening and, they kind of musing over what you've said, or they're feeling down, or, they're looking at the world and thinking, why is the world like this? What can I do? What words can you share with people?
Okay, well, I would say that, first of all, we've been taught that we're very small in this world, and, we're very pretty much insignificant. But it turns out the opposite is true. The world is very small, and you are very big in this world. You don't realize the power that you have in this world. There are so-called powerful people, elite people, who are trying their best to make you feel like you are insignificant and mean nothing. But seriously, if you didn't go to their educational system, you would realise that you can do anything you want to do in this world. You can be and do anything. The process of education is just about channeling that unlimited potential that you have down into a set of boxes that supposedly these are things that you can do. But the point is, you can do anything. You just have to change the way you think about yourself. You will realise that anything is possible in this sandpit, this world that we've got here.
Yeah. I agree with you. There's more of us and less of them. And if we think outside of the box, we can definitely change this world. Because I feel everyone's feeling it. Everyone's feeling, I don't like this, or I feel hemmed in, but everyone's probably, just accepting it. And we keep so busy. We're so busy. We don't have time to actually think and figure out what to do. And you've done that. You've left your cushy, because you had a very cushy life, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I was living in America. I had a big house, I had a Ferrari, I had a whole room full of man toys. I could have quite easily just carried on in that world, that fake world, and just being part of the Matrix. But it's all right.
Dave, thank you so much. I know you're off on your travels, but definitely I hope you will come back on. I really would like to, because there's other things as well that we weren't able to kind of talk about today, but definitely I would love you to come back on. And can you just reassure us that you will be coming on?
Absolutely, I'll be happy to.
Oh, thank you so much. Have a lovely day. Have a nice safe journey. Where are you going actually?
Well, I'm going to Denver, Colorado to start with to speak on in the International Flower Conference, and then almost as soon as I get back, I'm going to St. Lucia for the winter.
Yeah, next time when you come back, can we talk about the flat Earth?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, have a safe and lovely journey and look forward to speaking to you again, Dave. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.